Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 50. We are on episode 50 and we have a very special guest with us who will need no introduction, and I will give him a very brief introduction in a second. But first of all, I will say hello to Mr. Peter Lantz, who is with us as usual.
Oh, hello. So I thought I was the special guest.
You are a special guest. You've been with us. You've been with us all but one episode, I think.
Special in a different way.
And we are without Mr. Paul Bassett today. Mr. Paul Bassett, I think, is busy working. He couldn't make today, but Paul will be with us in spirit. And we are joined today all the way from Utah in the USA by our very first four-time guest. We are joined by Mr. Dan John. Good morning, Dan.
Well, good morning. And I got to tell you, it's an honor. I think a lot of the listeners are going, shouldn't this be his 50th appearance on this on the podcast? I've listened to some of the other ones. That's like, honest, boy, the dip off in quality. Jeez, I tell you.
Cool. So we did. I think last time we were on, we called the last two episodes, I know, The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And yes, last time we spoke, we did say we'd start off with maybe Raiders of the Lost Ark or something. We'd start a new franchise.
Love it.
On the next.
Great idea. Except we're not doing Raiders 4. Okay.
No, not the. We'll miss out the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. Yeah.
Well, and so did they actually. What they decided to do is make a movie with no writers, no inspiration. Really, I don't know what they actually put together.
Well, they're actually recording. They're recording another one, aren't they? And they're recording it in the Northeast. So Harrison Ford was in my hometown a couple of weeks ago. He was walking along the quayside by the River Tyne, and the local paper were following him and reported on like his every movement, and people were going down to go and spot him and see him. And he got a bit annoyed apparently.
And he got injured too, right? He got injured.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, because I think they were trying to mock up some streets and things to look like maybe the 60s or something, and they were having, cars and all different, fronts of shops and things. Yeah.
Well, you see, they could have done that easily. They could have just gone to Sunderland.
Oh. Well, one day I was in Twickenham, and they mocked up a street to look like a street in Ireland, and so they do. It was a BBC it was a TV show. In fact, I caught the name of it, and then I forgot what it was. Sorry, and it was interesting because it was like every stereotypical thing you would think about Ireland, they just shoved into a street.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, dude. I mean, that is just yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, we are with Dan today. We are going to have a general catch up with Dan. Obviously, we now are moving out of, hopefully for the last time, we are moving out of kind of lockdowns and things like that. We are now sort of fully back open in the UK, and I think is it moving that way for you in the States, Dan? Are you?
No. In fact, we are going backwards because the unvaccinated. The people who aren't vaccinated are now dying. So we're all calling it Darwin's revenge, because all the people who refuse to get vaccinated are now getting the Delta variant and literally dying. And it's like, my mom wasn't afraid of war. As I've mentioned before, my family's spilled blood for in your country, along with our English allies on the continent there. Her husband, my dad, was in the Pacific Theater fighting the Japanese. She feared polio. And for any of our listeners who have maybe grandparents of a certain age, they will talk about polio. And so I grew up with the idea that vaccinations were a miracle. And I'll go to my death thinking when I got vaccinated, my arm hurt for a day. And I'm like, yeah, versus having my daughters bury me. I think that's okay.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely. And we're kind of moving out. And the reason I kind of segued into that is because travel is opening up, and I know that the kind of the government over here are trying to open up travel more, and as a consequence, we are going to be blessed with your company in only a matter of weeks. You're coming over to the UK in August, aren't you?
Is that true? I didn't. It's the first I've heard of it. Absolutely.
It's a surprise. You're kind of
Wait, what? Hey, and the truth is, I love those workshops we do at your place. I always have. I know sometimes I'm battling jet lag with all my heart and soul, but I love those. And the crew that shows up. For those of you who are in England and I would say the people who show up to my workshops there are some of the best. I mean, the people are some of the best and brightest in the fitness industry. So, I mean, it'll give you a chance to, I mean, listen to me, sure, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, you get to hang out with Peter and James. I mean, that'll be very exciting.
Yeah. So Dan is over. We'll talk about some of the things that Dan's been working on, some of the things that he'll be covering when he's with us. But it's going to be the Saturday and Sunday, the weekend of the 21st and the 22nd of August. 2 separate days, hosted at Unique Results in Chelmsford in Essex, about half an hour outside of London on the train. 2 separate days. But what we're going to try and do first of all is to get people who want to come to both days to sign up. There's only going to be 18 places on this exclusive kind of workshop with Dan. And Dan, often I've been in situations with Dan where he's talking around the world to hundreds of people at a time. So actually to be in a room with Dan and less than 20 people and have the opportunity to ask questions and to really kind of learn up close and personal with him is going to be fantastic. But we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end once we kind of discuss where Dan's at, what he's working at, and what your latest thoughts are, Dan. I mean, one quick thing I will have to say is I am reading, I've got all of Dan's books, obviously, but I'm reading Attempts at the moment, which I think is a brilliant book. And if you've not read, I've got all of them. I've not read this one yet, or I'm reading it at the moment, and 40 Years with a Whistle are the 2 that I still have to read, but really enjoying that. And I think you said, Dan, it's one of your favorite books, but it's not many people buy it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think 40 years. In fact, Larry Draper said this. Now, Larry Draper has published some of the biggest names in our field, and she thinks that 40 Years with the Whistle is was my best book. Attempts is better. Those 2 books, Attempts and 40, don't sell at all. And I just think that we're in a saturated market. The internet, the internet crazies have won. So now it's, somebody emailed me some nonsense yesterday. Do you think, is this really going to help me? And I'm not going to tell you what it was, but it was like this minor, it was just like, should you have, granular sugar versus, table sugar? I mean, honestly, it was that level of, it isn't going to make a difference. Don't have the sugar. But I think what hurts me is that I have such a very simple approach to things. It's not nearly as sexy as things should be. I'm always trying to get you to think 10 years, 20 years. Even if you're an athlete that's competing tomorrow, I still want you to be, actively. And it's a very boring message. And many people, my nutritional advice is right, but it's very unsexy. My lifting approach works, but it just doesn't. The way we train doesn't look good in an Instagram video. It just, I'm not. And another thing too is I've got to show my boobs more in my Instagram. I have decided to. I look at the people who have really, really high numbers, and it's boobs and butts, my friend. And maybe I should talk to Stu McGill. Maybe Stu McGill and I should really get into this. I'll ask him.
So I was going to say, one of your videos I saw recently, I think I commented on, you are looking leaner than I've ever seen you look while you're training. And I know that you're still obviously you're doing your Olympic lifting meets and competitions. And I think you're, if I'm not mistaken, you're kind of moving down the weight classes.
Yes, I am.
Is that right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe you could tell us what's kind of prompted that, why you're doing that, and also how you're doing that, because it really does look like you're still obviously strong. You've still got all of your, obviously technique and everything there, but you are visibly getting leaner week by week almost.
We'll stick in kilos. Is that okay?
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So I started the year off at 113. And one of the issues with that is my daughter was pregnant, and he's here now. His name is Leo, and he turned 4 months yesterday. And by the way, he barely made it onto the planet. He was about 5 weeks premature, emergency birth. The umbilical cord had broken. So, but we found out yesterday he's in the 97th percentile for height. So that's the upside of having a father who's almost 2 meters tall. So he's doing fine, gentle listeners. And I know a lot of people from England knew the story. I got a lot of support from my friends over in the Isles. So I really appreciate that. And I just want to shout out to some of the people who care so much. And it means a lot to me. So when you have and Leo's my third grandchild, and I'm like, well, I want to be around to see this 2 meter plus fast twitch monster compete as an athlete. So to do that, I've got to do a few things. So I like being the biggest, strongest guy. I like doing the Highland Games. I like throwing the discus. But what I discovered is maybe long term, I need to do something else. So my first goal was to lift 2 meets at the 102 kilo class. Mike Brown and my coach, my training partner, Mike, and my coach, Dave Turner, we talked about the idea to lift in 2 meets at 102. I'm talking about weight categories here, folks. So you have to get under 102. The idea for 2 was anybody, I can ratchet it down. I can diet down to 102, but to stay there is a different story. And then now my goal is to get down to 96. And it's interesting because Dave Turner, my coach, is a former mathematician, and he went through all of our state records. So if you know anything about Olympic lifting, they change the weight classes every few years. And he found an anomaly in the weight classes. There's one person who has more state records than anybody else by far. In fact, if you add up number 2, 3, 4, and 5 combined, the number 1 person has the most state records, that person being me. So when you have a 41-year career lifting in one state, you get a lot of state records. And of course, they keep changing weight classes. So I just show up and break the state records. And then I go up a class, I go down a class. And I've been doing that for 41 years. So we discussed why not do this? Why not get the 102, get down to 96? And the idea again being 2 times at 96. So that's the reasoning. Okay. The method is simple. Before I go to bed at night, I make coffee. I wake up to the smell of coffee. I get my work done. Very often the opportunity to speak with Health Oddity, the finest podcast on the internet.
You'll have to use that bit for the trailer, Pete.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm all over
that. And then I work out. I do Olympic lifting followed by walking, and this comes from a guy by the name of Rusty Moore. He believes that what you need to do is free up the free fatty acids. So what frees up free fatty acids? Well, we know that fasting does it. So I do that by not eating after dinner until I eat my first meal. So I fast. Coffee frees up free fatty acids. Strength training frees up free fatty acids. And then I'm going to use a reference most of the young people wouldn't know, and then like Pac-Man, when I go for my walk, my body eats those free fatty acids. And I go probably a half an hour to 45 minutes. Now, in some of my times, I'll say 45 minutes to an hour. That's what we call in the business a lie. I don't think I've done an hour walk. No, I've done them, but and on Sundays, I have my, with my phone in my pocket. Last week, Tuesday, I guess, I got up to 5 kilometers of walking in the day. I had my walk, and then I went with my grandchildren and did some things, and then after I finished my walk, right now I'm doing Rusty Moore's virtual impact fat loss boost. A lot of words, as always. So 3 days a week, I'm Olympic lifting and then walking. 2 days a week, I'm doing original strength and then walking. And then Saturday and Sunday, I'm either just hanging around, or on Sunday, I walk over to this farmer market and I shop for vegetables. The diet for the 2 weeks is simple. Basically, it's chicken breasts and all the vegetables and fermented foods you can shovel down your throat. So I'm, like yesterday, I know I ate a lot of kimchi yesterday. And then for fluids, it's coffee, water. We have a thing here called Crystal Light. It can be soda drinks, though I have noticed that the soda drinks, with the soda drinks, the diet soda drinks and the kimchi, and there's something else. Oh, I'm adding a lot of sauces, like hot sauces, to my foods, that I have noticed my sodium count go up. I noticed that when I walk. So someone's going to say, well, isn't all that sodium bad for you? Yeah, the sodium is what kills most Americans. It's not our national obesity epidemic. The fact that when I tell Europeans that we have women who weigh over 140 kilos, and they go, what? Yeah, we have women who weigh over 140. You don't understand kilos. No, I do understand kilos. And it is interesting to meet someone you can't snatch. I think that's Olympic lift. Yeah. So yeah, their problem isn't.
Or in another way, as in kidnap. It'd be quite hard to kidnap someone, to snatch someone who was 140 kilos, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot more work. Yeah. Getting them in what do you guys call it, a boot? Getting them in a boot is a lot more work. Yeah. So for 2 weeks, I'm only going to lift 6 times in the 2 weeks, 2 mobility workouts. That's basically about a 45-minute period of, doing Tim Anderson's original strength, vents, which I've shown you before, and I'll show you again when I get there. Those are those wrist and foot stretches, which I think are underrated for long-term overall body health. Stretching and doing hand and foot stretching is so undervalued. Yeah, great. Walk barefoot, walk barefoot on the beach. I agree 100%. But if you're not, spend some time stretching those feet out a little bit.
I think since last time you were on with us, we've had Tim Anderson on actually, and that was that was a really good conversation with him. He was another lovely guy, so knowledgeable and brilliant.
And James, and this sounds crazy, but I hope my friends reflect upon me. I hope my friends are great people, kind. If I recommend someone to you, I hope they're the best guest. I mean, I just hope they're wonderful. And if they're not, tell me and I'll beat the hell out of them. Okay. So it's 2 weeks.
So the 96 kilos, this will be the lowest. Have you ever competed at that weight on the way up to getting heavier? Or
No, I haven't seen 96 kilos since well, I think you didn't have Queen Elizabeth II, I don't think. No, it would be back 96 kilos would probably take me back to probably 1999. I was 90. I got down to 208. 95 kilos back in the late 90s. I had basically retired from sport. By the way, gentle listener, I probably in the hundreds of times. I retired as a coach about 3 times a day, and I've retired as an athlete. I think it's 17 official retirements now. But I retired and I went on the Atkins diet, and I actually did just a very, very, very simple program. It was like clean and press, and maybe clean and press twice a week, and maybe front squats once a week with walks. And I got down to 95 kilos on Atkins. And by the way, I like the Atkins diet, and most people misunderstand it, and it bothers me because the 0 carb is only 2 weeks, and there's a brilliance to me for doing that. And right now I'm doing chicken breasts and vegetables and fermented vegetables and non-caloric liquids for 2 weeks. Folks, it's only 2 weeks, but I've always found in the way my brain works, that a 2 week, okay, I'm doing this for 2 weeks. That doesn't mean I mean, 2 weeks in a day doesn't mean I'm going to be down at the pub just shoveling. What's the worst pub food there is? What would be the worst pub food?
Probably like what, fish and
Pork
chips or
scratching.
something. Yeah, pork scratchings, fish and chips. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
well, and even then, I mean, those compared to American cuisine, those are actually pretty good. That's health food here in the States. So what it means though is at the end of the 2 weeks, I weigh in and I look at the scale and I say, okay, I got down to 97 kilos eating chicken breasts and fermented vegetables. To lose that last kilo, I mean, I can. I'm going to tell you how I do the last kilo. I have a sauna right there. I don't find the sauna nearly as good, but if you take corn, well, it's called corn silk, corn husks, and boil them, that makes a tea that's very diuretic for me. And that's what. There's 2 ways I do it. Do you guys mind if I?
No. It's interesting. Yeah.
Well, there's 2 ways to kind of do it. One is kind of a weird. There's 2 ways I lose those last pound, but you have to experiment with it because this might not work for you. One is on like on Monday. Okay, so Friday I'm going to do this thing. So Monday I'll buy a bunch of small potatoes called Yukon Gold, or not the big fluffy ones, but the smaller potatoes. I'll cook them Monday, let it cool overnight. Cook them Tuesday, let it cool overnight. Wednesday, cook them, cool overnight. And by the way, cooking might just be 5 minutes in the microwave and throw them back in the fridge. And when Friday comes around, what's happened is with potatoes, and you'll notice the same thing, by the way, with your members of your spaghetti family and even tomato sauce. That's why the spaghetti, if you've ever had it the next day, weirdly tastes better. And it's actually healthier for you. It's I can't remember the name for what kind of carb it is, but
Is it like the resistant starch, isn't it?
it's resistant starch.
Yeah,
Thanks for remembering the phrase.
yeah,
It's resistant starch. But here's the thing about potatoes, they're massively loaded in potassium. So if I eat these resistant starches, and that's it. So lots of potassium, and I drink this and it's not necessarily very tasty. So you just knock it down. By the way, coffee is a diuretic for me too. And I do that 1 or 2 meals with the potassium and the tea. I mean, I urinate that kilo off. Now, if I take an over-the-counter diuretic, then I have calf and hamstring cramps. So I made weight, but I can't lift. So you kind of have to juggle that. Now, gentle listener, I have to weigh 96 kilos. I have to weigh 102 kilos. I can't weigh 102.1 and take some kind. It has. Our new rules are: if you don't make weight, you don't lift. So I'm not saying this is a good advice. Now, the one thing about the potato thing, I tell you one thing: it makes your face look like you lost about 5 kilos. If you ever have to do a photo shoot, like you're getting married or something, the resistant starch thing, just one day. So the photo shoot is at noon on Saturday. Do the resistant starch thing Friday, even Saturday morning, and I'm telling you from the heart, you'll be stunned at how much better your face looks.
And just out of interest, how, because I used to box in the amateurs, so I was used to making weight and weighing in and boxing and stuff. So how soon before you lift do you weigh in? So after you weigh in, do you then have time to?
No, we have this shitty new rule. Well, we've always, I guess, had the rule, but now they're really enforcing it. Is because I'm still in the heavier classes in the local meets here, I don't lift until about 4. So weigh-ins are at 2. So that means, and I weigh in best in the morning. And so what I did for our state meet a couple months ago is I woke up, drank a lot of coffee, and they had there's a really cool thing down in St. George, Utah, where these dinosaur tracks. It's called the Johnson Farm. And it's not very big. It's about the size of maybe 2 school classrooms. And you go in there and they have these little walkways, and there are these dinosaur tracks. You can see where one dinosaur sat down on the mud. You can see where his tail went. And so I went there and I spent a better part of 2 hours just wandering around going this. I talked to the volunteer there and had a wonderful conversation. Well, that ate up 2 hours. So now we're at 11 o'clock, and then I had to check out of the hotel, So what I try to do is just spin my wheels until I weigh in. And then 2 o'clock came around, and my options for food were not very good. So I went to an American fast food restaurant and probably destroyed all the gains I had made over the last month. But you just have to. If I just have a little food in me, I'm okay. The truth is, I don't need anything because I want to be a little bit angry on the platform. Get those arousal levels where they need to be.
Because that's just, and because it is such an explosive, 1 rep lift, isn't it? I know you do a few repetitions, but it's not like, you've got an endurance event to do where, so if you've got the strength there, and like you say, you're angry and you're hungry, and you've got the power there in the body, haven't you? So
on the 6 attempts on the platform, I would be surprised if it took me more than 15 seconds. That would be with the, because of the pause and the jerk, so we're looking at, I'm pretty sure I have the reserves for 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And then after, after the meet, it's kind of nice because then you have a free day or two. Interesting thing though, very often after that free day or two, I'll weigh in and be right at where I weighed in at the meet, which just tells you about how the human body with weight is much more complex than most people think. It is fascinating to watch. I have noticed myself that salt seems to have a bigger impact on my weight than food. So if I make hot sauce choices and I put on, if I play around with certain foods that we know have high sodium, my weight goes up. Now it's also easier to deplete sodium than it is to, and it is, by the way, gentle listener, this is weight. So that's what I've been doing. And when I'm not doing 2-week preps, basically so what I do is I Olympic lift about 8 to 12 weeks before a contest. The Monday after, I go back to a very basic push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. I still focus on my, we call it buns and guns on Tuesday. So that is a day with a lot of hip thrust, deficit deadlift, and then arm work. And then, but walks after the walk after has been a godsend for me.
And when is your first meet at 96 kilos? Is that coming up?
It could be the Friday after I do my workshop with you, but it's just a thing we're doing at St. Mary's. But I don't have a meet until it looks like October.
Okay,
will be my first meet.
Because I think the thing that you've said there is although it may appear on the face of it to not be too applicable to many average listeners, what you're talking about is bringing your weight down gradually and then kind of solidifying yourself and maintaining that, which is the purpose of you saying you want to be there for 2 meets, and then bringing it down again. So my old boxing trainer used to say, you'd be moving your way down the weights, then you need to kind of have a period of consolidation at that weight where to begin with, you might feel fairly weak, but then you consolidate at that point and you feel strong, and and then you settle at that weight for a bit, like lowering the thermostat, and then you come down to the next weight. So I think because many people have said, haven't they, weight loss is fairly easy, isn't it? It's actually maintaining that below. Lots of people have lost the same 10 kilos 10 times throughout their lives, haven't they, and put it back on again.
Well, that's a discussion called setting the body's thermostat. And so that's why I think it's imperative that you spend time at a new weight. If you think about a flight of stairs going down, I think that would be a healthier way to do weight than that straight line people always talk about. Now, your mileage may vary. Throw out any cliche you want to throw right now for my point. But I honestly believe that if you, so like, your client wants to lose, what's a typical number for a client in England to lose weight, female?
What a total goal to maybe say 28 pounds, sort of 2 stone.
So 12 kilos.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend this woman do is let's do a 2-week a Rusty Moore 2-week fat loss boost. Okay. He thinks you should lose about, say, 3 kilos in those 2 weeks, maybe 4. In my case, I have the chance to lose even more because I'm a bigger engine. So you have to be careful. But let's just say for a female in this week, 2 to 3 kilos. After Edna goes from, got to be careful. I don't want to get any rude. I don't want to get anything rude. She started off at 80 kilos and she's down to 77. Okay. What I would suggest then is maybe take 2 to 3 weeks, and her goal is just stay in that 76, 77, 78, because things flow. But as long as she stays within that target range for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, for 4 weeks, and then we say, okay, so the chicken breast veggie, fermented veggie, no calories worked. This time, let's try to do we're going to add more cardiovascular work. We're going to add more high intensity training, but keep your diet the way it's been for those past 2 or 3 weeks. We'll just see if we can exercise our way down. Do that for 2 weeks where you add some really hard workouts. And then what you'll probably find is that there's almost a line in the sand. Up to about 35 to 40 years of age, what you'll find is that dietary changes have a bigger impact than exercise change. After 40, the habit of exercise, and here's the so the habit of exercise seems to have a bigger body composition change. Now, when I say the habit of exercise, gentle listener, that means 3 to 5 workouts a week for 2 weeks versus 1 workout per year. When you get to kind of where I'm at, you have to do daily exercise. As nice as it is, I mean, people ask me questions about 2 workouts a week, and I think it's great. I would not suggest that for a 64-year-old, because you need it's better to have 7 pretty good workouts a week. Like for me, those Saturday and Sunday, I mean, I go to the farmer market. It's probably a total of 5 kilometers of a walk that day, but it's very gentle, but that's better than trying to shove 30 kilometers on Monday and a hard weight workout on Thursday. It's much better to do 1 to 5 kilometers per day walking and 2, 3, 4 weight workouts a week as you age. And that's just, you can disagree with me, but that's my truth, my reality.
Well, I think that's the whole consistency beats intensity, isn't it? That is that is it, isn't it? It's that lifestyle type exercise and movement. There's a lot of talk at the moment, obviously, with everyone now working, on a computer behind a desk, especially the last 18 months where most people have been working at home and working from home. They're not even leaving the front door sometimes. So there's a lot of talk of, well, actually you can't negate or undo 10 hours of sitting behind a desk with 45 minutes to 1 hour of intense exercise per day. It's this getting up and walking regularly, or, walking in the morning, walking at lunchtime, training in the evening, but this kind of trying to undo a day's worth of inactivity with high intensity 45 minutes just leads to injury, doesn't it? Yeah.
I would like to have heard what Karl Marx would have thought about this last year. He had this thing called surplus value. So most of my friends who work in the corporate world work about an hour, hour and a half a day when they're in the office. And then the other hour and a half a day, we call it here in America fantasy football or rotisserie baseball, or they're sending memes of kittens to each other, or they're sitting at the water cooler talking about, or they're on the calls to their sister. When you work at home, you work 10 hours a day, but you work 10 hours a day. I think people actually work harder and smarter at home than they do in the office. And it's weird because many people I've talked to said, yeah, it was the strangest thing. At work, I go 9 to 5. We'll just say that 9 to 5. But at home, I roll out of bed and I log on and I start working. 9 o'clock rolls around. I've already put in 2 hours. 5 o'clock rolls around, and then I'm checking emails at 6. right. And so I think people actually, my biggest knock on the COVID is that everyone deserves more money because they did more work during COVID. And you can argue with me and say, "Oh, I swear, when I'm at the office, I just work bullshit." I've been in.
I've worked in an office, and I know that is.
It's that cubicle life. I mean, you spend time. I mean, you always have one person. We call it here in the United States your office spouse. You know, you always have that one person you spend way too much time with. That other person that you're constantly pulling pranks on. The TV show The Office, both the American and British versions, show how much, you know, here in the States, we had John Krasinski, and he would talk about wasting entire days doing a prank. And so, yeah, I think we actually do the COVID made our health worse. Now, the funny thing is, and this isn't to be a jerk at all, but like there's a meme that went out. If you didn't write your book and get in the best shape of your life during COVID, you're a loser. You know, when are you going to have the time? Well, I'm as disciplined as probably. I mean, I'm a fairly disciplined person, and yeah, I did knock out a book in COVID, and I did got in better shape. But I did it because I had systems built in to do it. I have a world-class gym at my home. I mean, I have 3 Olympic bars in my garage, my gym at home. 26, and now it's 31 kettlebells. I've got every piece of equipment. You can do a Highland game track meet at my house. I have a caber for the caber toss. I mean, I had systems built in to deal with this. When everyone did all the hoarding, I hoarded things nobody else would buy, like vegetable soup and things like that. And I didn't hoard, frozen pizzas like all my neighbors did. Say one thing, and you could tell that they were hoarding highly carbohydrated foods because very quickly you could see the changes in their body. So, sorry, long rant there. I apologize.
I saw a great. This is a bit of an aside, but I saw a great cartoon the other day, and it was somebody like sitting in front of the doctor, and the doctor says, "You've got a disease which is caused by your lifestyle." So the person's like, "Oh, does that mean I'm going to have to change my lifestyle?" And the doctor goes, "No, we'll just give you a pill for it." And I just thought that was brilliant. It's kind of the way that, like, it's what we're talking about, isn't it? People are kind of like, "Well, my lifestyle's changed. So I'll like, how do I overcome that?" And it's like, well, you don't need it. If you want to overcome it, you need to go back to what you were doing, or you need to get out more.
Well, I have always discovered that stress exacerbates your habits. So if you were drinking too much, COVID was your excuse to drink a hell of a lot more. If you like to watch crappy TV and just go numb, COVID was a perfect answer. If you like to wake and bake, hey, might as well wake and bake. I don't have to go to the office, So, and for those of us who take our fitness as part of our lifestyle, and God, would you guys reach over and pat me on the back? But it was a real chance for me to really deep dive into my fitness and my thinking about fitness. Yeah, I mean, most people have noticed that when I do podcasts, how much, for example, how much better my office looks, how much better my gym looks. I have worked really hard on. I have upgraded my gym. Couldn't buy weight equipment to save your life here, but I went in and replaced every picture frame I could. I'm still working on that because I've got a few really weird sized ones. I've redone, I moved things around. I've taken stuff off. My library is so much better organized than it was. Now you might just sit here, gentle listener, and go, "Well, the dude's just a psychopath," and that's true. I go to the meetings, but at the same time, it was a really. So what I found with COVID is that my positive habits, I tried to feed and water and fertilize my positive habits. My negative habits, basically, and you guys know more of the situation, James. I always feel like when we have Peter, James, and Dan, John here, I always feel like we're about to start a missionary outreach. Peter, James, and John will be coming to visiting your home this week. Be sure, and they'll be playing guitars and singing songs. uh, I basically quit. I still drink alcohol, but I just decided on January 1st, as part of my goal from going 113 to 96, that alcohol was a barrier to that. So it did make me a bit more of an asshole, not because sometimes alcohol can be a nice little tension breaker. But I just, I decided to meditate more. So, so I try to be, actually today was one of the rare mornings I didn't roll out of bed and meditate, because I wanted to watch the gentle listener as we're speaking. The Olympics are on, and because of where I live, the timing on some of the sports is a little strange. So I wake up to get some coverage, and when I wake up in the morning, I look at some results and I watch some live. So, but I'm telling you, now this is something I'd like to emphasize for those of you who say, what I've discovered in the last few months, and this is pretty new stuff, I now meditate first thing in the morning while I'm still in bed. I have a little headband, and I'll probably have it with me on the trip. It's an eye mask with built-in Bluetooth speakers in the ears. And then I use a thing called brain.fm, and they have these 15-minute meditations. And I don't know what it is about you Brits, but every single person who does the meditation is British. I guess the British accent is so boring, it puts you into a deep. I don't know why I would have people from the American South. Now just close your eyes and just breathe into your belly.
That's why a lot of our guests on this podcast have been from the States, actually, because otherwise everyone would just fall asleep. It'd become a meditation podcast.
You know what? I might have to do a meditation broadcast from, hey, y'all. Now close your eyes. How's that feeling? Good. That feels good, don't it? Now listen here. I'm going to play some music in the background with the banjo. And I just want you to relax now. But there's one of them when this guy starts speaking, I just go. But so here's the deal about meditating first thing in the morning is I don't fall asleep when I meditate, and I get to that really interesting place. I'm sure some of our listeners don't believe in meditation. They don't do it. But there is, as an athlete, you have to be able to control your physical tension levels, but you also have to be able to control your arousal levels. And most of the time, when I'm working with most athletes, I'm bleeding off their physical tension, getting them to relax, get them to where they need to be, and bleeding off their arousal levels. But unless you've practiced lowering your arousal level, you can't do it. I mean, I can't walk up to you at the Olympic final and say, relax, God damn it, relax, you idiot, get relaxed, breathe out. That doesn't work. It has to be trained.
Yeah.
It's very easy for me to bring myself up at my arousal. Actually, I can make myself cry by thinking of a certain event with my daughter, her birth. We're not going to talk about it. And I actually consciously practice as an athlete raising and lowering my tension levels, because I think it is a real important thing.
No, that's fantastic. Have you been watching much of the weightlifting and things? Have you seen much of that on the Olympics yet?
For whatever reason, I'm catching a lot of it later, like on the different, because I just seem to, the timing just seems to miss. I don't, the live coverage and what I could do. It's been, I'm thinking I was about to say the impact of drugs. You can sort of see with the countries that are getting weightlifting medals that maybe the drugs aren't where they were. But I mean, there's no question that, I read a nice article. This might be the last time we'll ever have the Olympic lifts at the Olympics.
Yeah.
We're one drug scandal away from losing it. Having said that, that story of the young lady from the Philippines getting the gold medal is such a good story. I don't know if you guys.
Is that the one who'd been to, is her fourth Olympics, wasn't it? And the first time she came like last, and the second time she didn't finish, and the third time she might have got
I think she got
bronze or
silver.
silver, and then this time she got gold. Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen her video of her snatching the water bottles.
No, I've not seen that.
I don't know if I can find it for you quickly enough, but
Yeah,
during COVID, she had to train at home. And so she put on these very large water bottles on both sides. And it's a system. Actually, it's funny because people made fun of it. Back in the early aughts, 2008, 9, and 10, I used to have my athletes, we called them Koji Squats. It's where you hang, so you have a barbell and then you hang a chain underneath it, and inside the chain is a kettlebell. And then as the athlete steps back, you push the kettlebell so they sway, and as you squat, you've got all this other stuff. And she stands up from a couple of overhead squats lift, and she touches her body like this and says, "I can't believe how hard my core worked." Well, what I found with that exercise, we called them if you look up the word KOJI squats, you'll find it on YouTube. It doesn't look like much, but for hammer throwers, Koji was a hammer thrower. And anybody who's in like American football, rugby, soccer, hockey, all the hockey sports, it teaches you that kind of weird core strength that's in motion. So core doesn't mean you're like this. Okay, if those can't see me, but I'm just sitting here, that's not core. Core is a real anaconda strength, is in real time. People are coming at you. In American football, for those of you who are just listening, I have my left hand up. In American football, when I'm blocking someone, I put my left hand on them and I keep my right hand free. And what I'm trying to do is stop the athlete. Well, it's not a tricep extension. It is a whole body anaconda strength moment. Okay. So, and it was brilliant. Yeah. So I have watched some. Again, with most Olympics, with Olympic lifting, I wait until the whole thing's over and then I rewatch the event, because I always feel like I don't know what live or not live is with the way we do coverage here in the States. So I like to wait to the end and have the results, and then I can, I fast forward.
Yeah. So Dan, going back to kind of looping back round to where we almost started. You're going to be over in the UK in August. You're going to be over in England on the 21st and the 22nd of August in Chelmsford, Essex, at Unique Results, doing a workshop. Like we said, it's going to be 2 days, and I know we've kind of spoke about what you're gonna do over the 2 days. But I think day one is going to be focused around sort of single kettlebell work. Is that correct?
Well, my thought is, and I kind of wish we'd have done this pre-COVID. We should have planned this worldwide pandemic better, the two of us. So basically, the idea is if all you have is single kettlebell, what can you do? And then the more I thought about it over this period, I realized that honestly, for most people, for most trainers, even for most coaches, the toolkit you get from the single kettlebell probably is most helpful. So we'll go through the hinge, we'll go through the squat. I'll take you through, I'm going to take you through my whole, the T-spine stuff, which leads to the windmill and it does lead to the bent press, but no one really does the bent press. But it'll walk you through just with a single kettlebell how you can get everything, and then an exercise that you guys call it press ups, push up. How even something as simple as a press up, push up relates back to the swing, and then just because once you figure out the hinge and my dog is making a pillow for himself with my pillows. Thank you. Once you go through the hinge and the squat with the kettlebell, then the barbell kettlebell makes a lot more sense. So, doing something like a Romanian deadlift after you've done a kettlebell work is like, oh, I understand it. This is what you mean. Yeah. Doing squats after doing goblet squats, it makes more sense. So.
Yeah.
And then day two will be will basically be how I work with the American forces and British forces, about being resilient, which I call bounce. And if I can remember, I'm going to bring these two balls, and one is a hacky sack and the other one is an American lacrosse ball. And what the problem is, and I think this is a good point. So if you throw a hacky sack ball, you guys know what hacky sack is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you throw a hacky sack on the ground as hard as you can, you notice how it doesn't come back up. But if you throw a lacrosse ball back, it comes up higher. And I use this simple image, very simple image, to explain how one bounces back from life's adversity. We discussed an issue I'm going through right now, and people are like, I can't believe how well you're doing this. Well, I like to think of myself more as a ball like this versus a hacky sack. And I think one of the, like with my business model, we did better with COVID. We actually made more money during COVID because we were resilient. We're like a full ball. We want to bounce. And so what's the toolkit for bouncing? Well, it's eating protein, eating veggies, eating fermented food, drinking water, getting your sleep, doing your meditations, go for a damn walk. Well, how does that help you with COVID? Well, because it gives you more resilience. And I believe the word in Norwegian is sprekt. And it gives you more of a balance. And that's, and what we'll talk about is coaching versus cueing. My rules of coaching, number one rule, listener, is embrace the obvious. And when you listen to me, almost everything I say in my workshops is always so damn obvious. But I can guarantee I out obvious you as a coach. If the game is based on these simple principles, I will do the simple principles more than your team will. And we're going to beat you, and you're going to say, what's the secret? And I'll say, well, it's the discus throw. So we do more turns than your athletes do. Well, how many do you do? Well, we do about 500 to 1,000 turns in a workout. Oh, we do 6. Right. I win, you lose. That extra 994 turns a day we do is going to make a difference.
Yeah. One of the sections I've just read in the book Attempts is I think I might even read it last night, is the coaching versus cueing. And it's got your whole movement matrix in there. And then something that is so brilliant. We had a team meeting at the gym yesterday, and I was talking to the guys about it, where you've got the movement matrix, and then you've got all the movements, and then you've got your key cues for each movement. And it's just so, I mean, it belies how it's so simple, because you've taken so much work to make it that simple. But it is just so brilliant, the movement matrix with the cue for every single movement. So I said to the guys, hopefully they're going to see you when you come over, obviously, but we'll go through this in one of our meetings, because if you're all using the same cues, and the cues are so fantastic,
For the listener, so a cue is a thing I say as your coach or trainer while you're doing the exercise. So, and it has to be something they know. Stay tall, stay tall, stay tall. You could say, if you decide to use a word like finish, they have to know what finish means in that movement. Go, go, go is one of, go, go, go is a phrase I use a lot. If it's a certain exercise, like any kind of row, I say squeeze, but what squeeze means is getting those thumbs into the armpits. Now, I might say thumbs in the armpits. If we're doing TRX rows, thumbs in the armpits, because we're doing 8 to 12. But if we're doing bear hug carry, squeeze so thumbs in the armpits quickly becomes squeeze. But how long are these words? I mean, squeeze, stay tall. And then when the weight gets put on the ground, when the exercise is over, then I walk over to little Peter and I say, now, Peter, at the bottom position, you're perpendicular across the transgressional plane, and your hypotibialis is overcoming the neural pathway of the greater Antilles. Because that's what it sounds like to me when I hear most personal trainers talk. I don't know what the hell they're saying. I honest to God, I'll be the thing sometimes. And someone will say, Dan, I've noticed that, and they'll say something to me, and I'll be like, honest to God, I don't know what you mean. oh, and they'll get kind of huffy. It's like, well, did you not read, Bob Williams's, Instagram post on the Greater Antilles? No. Oh, well, he's brilliant. Well, who is he? Oh, he's a guy. He's got 13 followers. Uh-huh. And don't worry, he's a doctor of, East African, medicine. Oh, okay. East African, because he got kicked out of the West African one. Yeah. All this voodoo shit we put up with in our business just cracks me up. Which is fun. You had Stu McGill on, and I haven't listened to it yet because it hasn't been made available to me yet.
It's actually Stu McGill. We're actually in a bit of a time traveling vortex, because we recorded Stu McGill yesterday, but he's going out after you today.
Oh, okay.
Don't tell anyone he was on.
Okay. But Stu, when you talk to Stu with his genius, I mean, is there a better person with a spine? Yeah, maybe. I just don't know who they are. Is there someone who's more logical about the spine? Yeah, maybe. I just don't know who they are. But you'll notice Stu has almost zero voodoo, right?
Mm.
You know what I mean? There's no.
I said that, or I will say that exact thing to him at the end of the podcast. I was like, because I likened him to you as well. I said, you guys, the way you talk, it's just so simple, and it makes it easy to understand, and especially like with what he's talking about with his spine and everything, and he's a professor and all that sort of stuff. But it's just, he just said it in such a simple way that it makes it so understandable and so obvious of what you need to do.
Yeah, you kind of want to punch yourself, don't you?
Yeah, and then you go, I'm being stupid. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like sometimes Stu will be talking, I'm like,
Yeah.
Like when he says, for back, take a 10-minute walk. I'm like,
And yesterday we found out why a bird dog's called a bird dog, because I didn't know. And it's because in the States, is that what you call pointers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Some people ask me, why is it called a bird dog? And I'm like, I've got no idea. It doesn't matter.
No, I had no idea. I've been teaching bird dogs for the last decade or whatever, and I don't know why it's called a bird dog.
Here's what we're going to do at the workshop. Let's start writing. Okay, burpees are named after a man named Royal Burpee. Bird dogs are what Hund for my German listeners. Hunds when they're pointing. Goblet squat, because the inventor is an Arthurian fan, and it looks like holding the Holy Grail, but actually that's too geeky, so he called it the goblet squat instead. Boy, there's so many exercises named after people. Interesting, the hack squat is not named after Hackenschmidt. Hackenschmidt explained it. The word hack means maybe ankle or something like that in German. It's the ankle squat. And Hackenschmidt explained that, and no one listened to him. He said, no, it's not named after me. It's named after the position you're holding it in. Snatch is a very British term. Clean as you clean it off the floor. Yeah, it is fascinating. Probably the most recent exercise in our pantheon of basic lifts is the bench press. That's the newest. People think it's like it's probably only been around basically right around-ish World War II. A father judge at a university here in America called Notre Dame was the first to really push it here in the States. And people said, well, it actually originated in Germany. And it's like, okay, let's go find, because Father Judge was a German and from Germany. So it's like people get this idea that our field is ancient, but actually most of the stuff we have is less than 100 years old. Yeah.
You did actually ask us to, you asked me to write down ankles at the start before we started. Is that something is that a big subject, or can we discuss that now? Or is that something?
Well, real quick, Tim Anderson had this really interesting podcast this week. That's why, getting back to vents and stuff like that. The psoas muscle, when it gets agitated, kind of makes your low back bark. How do you get your psoas muscle to be less agitated? Well, you can stretch it, but it's impossible. Or you can get the ankle to glide easier. So doing original strength 6-point rogs makes the ankle glide better. Doing goblet squats helps the lower back. And I thought it was because of anaconda strength and opening up the hip mobility. But now I'm thinking maybe it's because it opens the ankles up. And so maybe at the workshop, we'll spend more time talking about, and by the way, we all know this, the leg bone's connected to the hip bone's connected to, we know that. But in our field, we forget that constantly, that the body is one elegant, beautiful piece. And what was interesting about Tim's recent blog is it just made my mind go into 1,000 other things. And I even got advice this week. So I'm standing on a box and I have maybe 8 to 12 kilo belt draped over my foot. So you know how some of us do the pull-ups with the with the weight. Yeah. Well, the person told me to do, and then bring my knee up as high as I can. So it makes the tibulus, interior tibulus, work. But it also makes that whole system work. So it is a loaded leg knee lift. Here's the funny thing. It might be one of the best things to do for your lower back and to stop any issues you have with the lower back. And you look at this lift and you're like, how does that help the lower back? And then you'll say, well, it helps the ankle and it helps. And then all of a sudden you're getting back to that wonderful Myers book, Anatomy Trains with the slings. And it is just such an eye opener. Now, by the time I get there, I'll be bored with it and I won't talk about it
anymore. Okay.
You have to give it a name.
The Dan John knee lift. Yes.
Done. There you go.
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh, thank you so much, Dan. I mean, we've been on for about an hour again today, and I know you're training this morning as you always do. So I think previously when we've been on,
in fact, I think one of my lifters is on the stairwell.
Yeah, people have started turning up for training. So just a quick reminder, guys, everyone, Dan will be over in Chelmsford, Essex, the 21st, the 22nd of August. We will be, it'll be 2 separate days, but they will obviously be linked as well. So stuff that we learn on day 1 will transfer to day 2 and vice versa. So all the links for how to get more information about that, how to sign up for that will be in the notes for this podcast. And yeah, it would be great. Come along, spend a weekend with Dan.
Okay. Yeah. On the second day, I would like to show how in the group setting, how I coach large groups.
Yes.
It won't be a really hard workout, but it'll be kind of an illuminating workout. Ideally. Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully, I remember one of the times you were over before. We took all the loaded carries outside, I think, and we were out in the car park doing loaded carries and things, which was great. You know, suitcase lifts and farmers walks and all that stuff was brilliant. So, and we will go. You know, we'll go out for a meal or something on the Saturday night as a group. So it'll be a fantastic way to spend time.
And then, as I understand it, Sunday night I'm getting taken down to the Alexander Pope pub in Twickenham, London, because it's time to go be a professor at St. Mary's again, and I can't tell you how excited I am to see my students.
Indeed. Yeah, you are indeed. We're going to finish up about sort of 5-ish or so on the Sunday evening, and then we'll be having a drive to Twickenham after that. Yeah, so that'll be fantastic. I just also want to say before we log off that I'm also just want to give the Dan John University a bit of a plug because I'm signed up to that as well. And I mean, do you just want to just 2 minutes, Dan, on Dan John University? Because I'm blown away. I've got the goal setting course, and there's obviously the workout generator on there, but there's so much other stuff on there for a really sort of low monthly investment. The amount of information and knowledge on there is incredible. I think. Yeah.
So danjohnuniversity.com. So there are, I mean, the downloads. I mean, how many books do you have in those downloads? I mean, it's a lot of free books, free materials. The easy strength materials in the downloads is I think some of my best work. And then there's essays. And by the way, I'm moving back to a weekly essay on the site, just for fun. The forum is one of the politest, kindest forums I've ever been involved with in my life. It truly is good people, helpful people. And then there's this thing called the workout generator, where you first plug in what equipment you have, how many days a week you want to work, how intense, and then you press a button and it gives you a template. And here's the thing, even then you can still, so my friend Ann, during the lockdown, she had no equipment. And she said she came out of the lockdown in better shape because in the squat option, there's the leaping goblet squat option. And she said she got the best shape of her life. Now, I look at that, and my squat option today, because I'm 64, might be, an assisted squat. But the nice thing is you can, not only does it give you all what you need to know, then you can adapt it for your needs. There's also 3 courses, the course on goal setting. I hope maybe we should do the 5-2 assignment while we're there. Would you make a note of that? Because I think there's great value in that.
Yeah.
And I'll do it with one of the listeners again, because the students again, because I'm turning 64 while I'm in England, and now I'll be 65, and I need to think about things. Do I want to be around for Leo in 20 years? And I think the answer is yes, I do. So that changes everything. It changes my finances. It changes my physical. There's also a programming workshop, which I think is really good. Not a lot of people have got. And then, of course, Easy Strength Part 1, which is probably better than what I can do on Easy Strength, because I had time without interruptions to answer. You know what Easy Strength is. But and I think the courses are really reasonably priced, I think, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what. Yeah. $30, $50, something like that. Really good. Yeah.
And you keep it for life, and it's good. Yeah. Oh, thank you for bringing that up, James.
No, that was great. Cool. So, Pete, do you have anything you'd like to say, or any final thought at all?
No.
Thank you, Pete. We come in for that kind of insight every week, and
it's just been interesting sitting and finding out like what you're up to and stuff, rather than like just explaining how to do things and how this works and all of that, and trying to give as much information. It's just like what you're up to, how you do things. Basically, it's good. It's good to listen to, and
I lead from the front. That is something. I was told that in 1979 by a military person. They said, even this is my first year of coaching, they said, what's cool is that you lead from the front. And I and this is the truth. And I have never done a diet exercise program that I have not done first. I have never recommended something that I have not done.
So the insight into that for me is that's what I try and do. And, I never give anyone anything that I haven't done and I don't know anything about, because otherwise, if something happens, it's on me, isn't it? Also, it's your fault that my Instagram account is so boring. I've realized that now, because kind of like, I follow a lot of what you do. So, it's your fault.
Okay, guys, I'd just like to say, please do like, follow, subscribe. If you have the ability to leave a review on the platform you're listening on, please do leave us a review as well. Do check out Dan on Instagram, on Facebook, and obviously danjohnuniversity.com. danjohnuniversity.com. Do check that out. And then also, if you are in the UK, or I think Finn's coming over from Belfast for the weekend, so that'll be great. But if you are anywhere near the UK on the 21st, 22nd of August, it would be great to see you, to spend a weekend with Dan. Thank you so much, Dan, for your generosity, for your time, for coming back on, and I can't wait to see you in a few weeks.
And let's do this. Let's set up something for the Friday night for those coming in too. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just say, here's the pub we'll be at, and by the way, it won't be a drinking fest. It'll be just to hang out, shake hands. Okay, sound good?
Yeah, no, we'll do that as well. That'd be fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you. And we will obviously, if you do come along for the weekend, we'll forward you, hotel to stay at, all that kind of thing. We'll get all that sorted for you as well. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, guys. We will see you again next week with Stu McGill. So Stu McGill will be on next week. Okay. Thank you, guys. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Oddity.